Hey there Persona fans, and welcome to the Raven Azrael Persona channel. Now, the Persona fandom is finally awake. And the reason why we're finally awake is because we have just received a new trailer for the new installment in Atlus's new game in the Persona series called Persona 5. Oh, let us jump on the hype train. Now, everything is just super exciting right now. We've got a new trailer, and I believe Atlus is incredibly generous with the new update. I honestly think they've given us so many things to analyze this time round, and so many things. Persona 5 is revolutionary. Honestly, I personally think that this game is going to be revolutionary, is going to be the new next gen of the Persona era. It's starting its own era, honestly. It's becoming, just by looking at the trailer, I can tell that it is a completely different being from its predecessors, Persona 3 and in Persona 4. It's totally different. And just watching the trailer, if you guys have not watched the trailer, what are you doing with your life? Go down to my description and you will see the new trailer out and you will enjoy it. Link up down below in my description. And if you haven't actually read the trailer, watch the trailer, watch it first before watching this video, because I'm going to be breaking it down for you. This is my own trailer analysis of the second trailer of Persona 5. Firstly, let us look at the different themes that I've explained before in my previous videos. The themes that are central to the Persona 5 storyline is individuality and imprisonment. And as I said in my individuality video, if you haven't watched it, the link will be somewhere around here. And in that video, we are talking about how individuality is typically breaking out of society's norms. Now, how is this going to implement in the Persona 5 story? So here is my analysis of the storyline based on the second trailer. The Persona 5 trailer is very interesting because we open up to this helicopter scene and we come into a beautiful city, a metropolis. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and then that's when you see how beautiful this game is. The graphics, engine, beautiful. And then we come into a casino, and we see, well, some YouTubers have said they're not playing with the casino thing. I'm not too sure if that is relevant, but it might be. The fact that they're not playing with the machines may be relevant. And then we see guards, and the helicopter could represent the authorities coming in as well. So we see high security alert. There's an alert going on, and then we see our man, the protagonist, in the mask, all dressed in black, jumping through, and he looks like he is in a heist. He's in the middle of doing something against the law. And obviously a lot of people have sort of related this to it being a robbery or a heist, because why else would you be in a casino in a mask? And the fact that the protagonist is in the mask, I believe, has something to do with Philemon, because if you look at the mask, it is very butterfly-like, and I don't know why, but just looking at the protagonist in that mask reminds me of Philemon, and I am looking forward to the idea of Philemon returning and playing a major role. As we know, he did exist in Persona 3 and in Persona 4, but in the form of the butterfly, and he's watching over the protagonist. But he didn't have a major role in terms of he didn't actually need to appear in his humanoid form. And I will be talking more about that later in another part of this video. But I am thinking, because if you look at the gameplay video following later, you'll see that he wears this outfit and this mask in the dungeon, which makes me wonder, is the casino a dungeon? And is it a heist in real life? Is he actually breaking the law? Is he some sort of high-profile criminal that he has to have these two extremely different sides? Because we see the protagonist in the first trailer, and he is incredibly different from the protagonist we see in this trailer. The protagonist in the first trailer, in his glasses, in his geekiness, in his very straight uniform, he looks very calm and collected. He looks very shy, closed up protagonist, and then suddenly we see this very devious, calculating protagonist coming out with this mask, and he's doing probably a robbery, and it's very, very interesting. Is he a high-profile robber that he has to have to come up with a different persona? You see what I did there? A different persona in his daily life. Very interesting, eh? And I want to link this in to, since there's so many authorities and so many guards coming after him, and once he lands we see him about to get caught. Is very, very interesting. Is something crucial being stolen to have so many people trying to chase him down? I mean, a normal robbery doesn't have that many people coming after you. So is something crucial being stolen? Which leads up to our story. Next, I want to talk about the characters. Now, the characters, as we see right now, so far, we see the protagonist, who has this dual side to himself, the very shy, calm, and collected, with the glasses being all geeky, you know, the very cute Cherkun protagonist. And then we see the devious one, which now the fandom is exploding with such amazing fan art. You guys need to go on Tumblr, put in the hashtag Persona5, and you will see such beautiful art. And honestly, it's so worth it being on Tumblr now that this game is coming out, if you guys have not signed up for Tumblr, because all this artwork, all this questions and theories are so interesting, and I feel so alive with all these different interpretations. So we got this protagonist with this dual side. Is he a robber? Is he not? Is he actually breaking the law? Is he some sort of high-profile criminal? What is he? What is his motive? We still don't know yet. All we have is speculation. Next, we have a girl named Anzu, or Anne, depending on how you're planning to interpret it. Apparently, Anne is is her name in English, but Anzu is apparently her Japanese name, and she looks like a very cheerful, bubbly female character. She looks kind of like a really close friend, a very good best friend material, I think. She does remind me a lot of Rise in terms of personality-wise, but I'm pretty sure she's much different than that. This, after all, I'm just taking her at face value. So, based on face value, she does look like a very bubbly, cheerful character, and I think she's going to be my favorite character. I'm not going to lie, I think she's going to be my favorite character. Next, we have Ryuji, apparently is his name. And he looks like the Yosuke, the Junpei of this Persona 5. I hope that he is not, but I don't mind if he is, because he does kind of look like a very bold character, but I'm not sure if he's going to be that bro who is like with the exact personality of Yosuke. I think he's going to be very, very different, but he does look very interesting with the blonde hair and very gangster looking clothing. You know, gangsta. People here be gangsta. And yeah, I think he's going to be very, very interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to take over the Magician Arcana, but we'll just have to see. Next, we come up to Morgana. And Morgana is very interesting because, as we see in the trailer, she seems to be a normal cat. And if you look closely at the protagonist when he's walking around with a bag, you see a face of a cat there. And in the part of the trailer where they are running away from something and the building is collapsing, we see a cat following them. And it seems that Morgana transforms into this mascot character that we see, a very big Doraemon-looking cat, and seems to fight alongside the main characters. And is he a pet? Is she a pet? Is she the protagonist's pet? Since the protagonist is the one that's carrying her around, I guess it makes sense. Is she a pet with powers? Does she have the ability to manifest a persona? If she does, why does she transform? Because Koromaru had the ability to manifest a persona, but he didn't have to change form, and he didn't start growing a huge head. You know what I mean? So, what is she? Is she a shadow? Is she some sort of other being from perhaps a different realm? Something like the Velvet Room, who is maybe a gift from Igor. Maybe she is some sort of guide for the protagonist or something like that. But then we also see like this whole design thing at the back with Morgana and the 7 Deadly Sins. is her ability the ability to embody all these 7 deadly sins in different manners? That could be it. It sounds very Persona for that to happen. Or is this background thing just for style? I'm not sure. It could be it. You know what I mean? I'm being very open with my ideas. I'm just literally throwing things at you with my analysis. And, you know, you guys can appreciate, you guys can take it or not. I mean, you guys, if you guys have different interpretations, different thoughts, please comment them down below. I've received so many amazing comments in my previous video with so many amazing ideas that I didn't think of, and I think you guys can help me better myself and better my analysis by showing me your interpretations as well. Next, we're going to talk about the manifestations of the themes. As I've spoken earlier in this video, the manifestations of the themes are individuality and imprisonment. In terms of imprisonment, we can already see a very, very clear look in the Velvet Room. Now, this is very, very interesting because when you look at the trailer, it seems, and in 2 different parts of the trailer. The first part, where we are zooming in, we see the twins, then we see Igor. There's this whole prison-like, cage-like transition we go through, and then we see Igor. Igor's back! Back again! Yep, I'm so happy about that, honestly. I was so worried that Igor wasn't going to come back because of the whole voice actor thing, but since he's back, Igor's back. Back again. Yes, we're gonna get our long-nosed friend back. I'm sorry, I just went weird for a little while. Yeah, so we have the Velvet Room in the shape of a prison, but then, if that doesn't convince you, later on, we see the protagonist in jail clothing, in prison clothing, holding, and he is chained, and he's holding the bars of the cage, and once it comes out a little bit, you'll see it's blue. It's that velvet blue color. Very, very interesting. I mean, think about it. We've got a prison Velvet Room, and I'm gonna be talking to you about the meaning and the effect this could have soon, but I really want to talk about the twins. The twins seem to be acting as the wardens. They seem to be the next Velvet Assistants. After all, they are designed in blue, and their clothing definitely screams out Velvet Room, and the fact that they are transitioning in with Igor certainly emphasizes that point as well. So we have twin assistants. That is very, very interesting. Because, you know, we've had Margaret, Theodore, Elizabeth. Even though I would have loved them to come back, well, Elizabeth is off on a tangent. We have no idea what happens to Margaret. What happens to Margaret? You know, I mean, I don't think she goes anywhere. So it's kind of strange, unless, you know, she's aged or something. But I don't think they age. So since there is no concept of time in the Velvet Room, so I have no idea what happened to Margaret. But I'm completely open with having twins as wardens. But what is their backstory? What is their motives? Who are they? And how will they enrich you? Obviously, they're going to be serving 2 different functions. So what are those functions? That's going to be very, very interesting. And obviously, I can't speculate what those functions are just yet because there's so many things you could do. After all, they could be adding a new game mechanic for all I know. And I'll just have to wait for the next trailer for me to let you guys know what is going to happen. Which is very interesting. The twins are very, very interesting. And then we know that Igor is back. Yeah, Igor is back. But obviously, onward from that point, we also see the prison cell. Obviously, the prison cell is what's sticking out in everyone's minds. I think you could take... Well, these are the only 2 things I can think of. Either it's following the normal Velvet Room mythos, in which that it is that since they always say the Velvet Room is in the shape of the protagonist's psyche, and we see that in Persona 3 with the elevator and the Persona 3 protagonist rising up, and you could say that he is rising up to sort of like eternal life and divinity because he sacrifices his life for the sake of the world. So it's kind of like his transition to eternal life, to heaven, you know, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, it seems to be that way. And then we see Persona 4's manifestation of the Velvet Room, and it is a car driving through a fog, unable to see what is ahead, which is definitely what Persona 4's storyline is about. After he has no idea who this murderer is, where is he going on in his life, what's the future, what's going to happen to the world. It's and the effect of the fog, and the fog is central to the theme of the game. It plays a large role in what the game is about, and if this is following the normal mythos, it does make sense, because it is a manifestation of the protagonist's psyche, and we see that the protagonist feels entrapped and imprisoned by society's needs and desires and their social norms, and he just wants to break free. And the fact that and then some of you might argue, but why is he imprisoned in the one place where he's allowed to break free and to free his persona? Yes, that is a valid point. However, if that is how he truly felt, then obviously that would be the true manifestation of his psyche. Do you see where I'm going with that? Yeah, but then that does raise a good point, which is what led on to me thinking of the second point. What if, because we all seem to think that the protagonist might be a high-profile criminal, a robber perhaps, and perhaps he stolen something he shouldn't have. And the fact that, we've got all these people, all the authorities, the helicopters, they're sending in bloody helicopters, and loads of cars after him, and then we've got this high-profile security guards coming in. I'm beginning to think, maybe this guy has stolen something very, very important. So important that in the Velvet Room, because as we see the sequence, he doesn't look... I mean, obviously, it's natural for you to be surprised while being in the Velvet Room. But the earlier protagonists didn't seem like they were afraid or angry either. But the fact that he looked angry and he's shaking the bars and he's gritting his teeth at possibly at Igor, and he looks like he's about to rip Igor's head in half and something like that, sort of suggests that he's being held accountable by Igor for something. That he's being imprisoned for something by the Velvet Room. Maybe he's done something to unleash something, you know what I mean? I obviously don't know the details, I'm just throwing ideas at this moment. And this could be relating to the heist. It could be he's being held accountable, and that the fact that he has to go on this dungeon crawling thing is to sort of he makes a deal with Igor, and I don't know, I don't know, maybe Igor asks him to rectify his mistakes in a sense, in essence. I think that makes sense. That's one thing, but I'm not too sure how that's gonna work out, but it does make sense, and it does seem like a very bold and radical thing for Atlus to do, and I think it would be brilliant if they did that. However, it will also be very, very interesting. This just came to me when I was talking about the whole Velvet Room thing, but it would be very interesting if Atlus were to paint the Velvet Room in an antagonistic light. I don't think they'll do that because it's breaking too far away from the norm. After all, a Velvet Room is supposed to be the middleman, the mediator. They do not have an influence whatsoever in the daily running of things, which is why the second point sort of has its holes and weaknesses. It would be very radical for Atlus to paint the Velvet Room negatively, and I don't think it would be a very popular choice either. But that's just an idea. It just popped up to my head. I'm sharing it with you. What do you guys think? Which one do you think it is? Just a manifestation? Him having to pay for something and he making a deal with Igor or something? Or do you think that they're trying to paint the Velvet Room in a negative light? Please comment down below and let me know what you think. Now we go on to the thing that everybody wants to talk about. Personas. And now we're going to talk about the trailer itself. Okay, in the trailer, it's in the middle of the city. So, and do you remember the part in the first ever trailer? If you haven't watched it, I don't know what you're doing in your life. I'll put that link down below as well. Watch it. But in the first trailer, we see this fire in the middle of the city. And when we see in the new trailer, we see a being, a strange creature busting out from the middle of the city, in the middle of the road, and springing out in black wings, and we are thinking to ourselves, could this be the main protagonist's persona? Now, in the concept art, it does seem to be like the main persona. After all, we've seen in many concept arts the main personas of the protagonists standing side by side, back to back with them. You know what I mean? However, or it could be like a whole Thanatos thing. If you think about Persona 3, you know, there's this whole. After all, it is Thanatos that stands with Makoto Yuki instead of Orpheus. So it could be something like that. He could be this persona-like thing. Could be playing a whole Thanatos thing about it. You know what I mean? If you're taking it into the light that it is the persona of the main protagonist, which I sincerely hope it is, because it looks so bloody cool, and it might be my next new favorite persona because of how amazing it looks. And it could, I personally think, if it was the main protagonist's persona, it has a very uncanny resemblance to that of the Mad Hatter, which makes me think, is there an Alice in Wonderland mythos in this? I doubt it because of Persona Q. I don't think they're gonna walk down that road again. But it does look like the Mad Hatter, and the fact that the protagonist is holding a card saying, "Let's play a game." Either that, or either he looks like a Mad Hatter, or he looks like a jester of some sort, or like someone that he definitely looks like someone who would be playing a game. And the fact that the protagonist is holding up a card saying "Let's play a game" is very, very interesting. And you know, when I was thinking about this, you know, the fact that he looks like a Mad Hatter makes sense of why there's twin assistants in the Velvet Room, because there's a whole Tweedledee and Tweedledum. But I personally think that's stretching it. So I'm not gonna. I don't personally believe in that viewpoint. It was just a thought that came into my head. I was just like, nah, I don't think they'll go down that road. But you know, it's a possibility. You know, whatever floats your boats, guys. But you know, it's very, very interesting. If you're not taking it if you don't think that it is a protagonist's persona, I hope it is. I seriously hope it is. It could be an antagonist, the antagonist, and that makes sense because he's bursting out in the middle of the city, and he looks utterly terrifying. And you know, he might be Nyarlathotep. I mean, I saw this on Tumblr, and someone did like a comparison. Oh god, I forgot to write your name down. Whoever you are, I'm so sorry. I forgot to write your name down. But the design, now that I'm thinking about it, looks awfully alike to Nyarlathotep, which is very, very interesting. Because as I have said before about the mask that the protagonist is wearing, and maybe a return of Philemon, maybe Nyarlathotep will make a return and play an active role as well. Who knows? Who is this guy behind this huge game? We don't know. We honestly don't know. And what is his goal? Honestly, is he planning to entrap humans in like this whole monotony and repetitiveness, and like trapping us in social norms so that we do not realize our full potential? Sort of like, and the fact that, you know, the card says "Let's play a game" suggests that maybe the game is the bet between Philemon and Nyarlathotep. After all, it's still ongoing. We're still pitting humanity against great odds and seeing whether they come out alright. That seems like a game, at least to these beings. After all, they are like eternal beings with loads of power. This bet is merely a game to them. So that sort of makes sense of why you would say, let's start a game. So that might be a thing as well. Next, I would like to talk about the final sequence in the trailer. It's still under Personas, but, you know, it's the final sequence in the trailer, and I think it is so, so interesting. Because, first off, I'm repeating a point that I said earlier because I think it's super, super interesting. It's the butterfly mask and the return of Philemon's main influence in the game. Before this, in Persona 3 and 4, we see Philemon in the shape of a butterfly. And he doesn't really play an active role as much as he did in Persona 1 or in Persona 2. But this time having a butterfly mask, and you know, during the transformation sequence, we see him forming a mask. Obviously, you can interpret it as him donning the mask of his persona, which is also valid. but I kind of would like a return of Philemon's influence. I think Philemon's a really interesting character that deserves a lot more exploration, and I would really like it. But even the donning of the mask as a persona makes a lot of sense as well. Next, in that sequence, we see the protagonist having gold eyes. As we all know, he seems to have gray, very dark colored eyes, but then we see him with gold colored eyes. Is this his shadow self? Is it his awakening and he just suddenly gets golden eyes? I personally think it's his shadow self, and that he is facing his shadow in a sense. Or maybe he has become his shadow to become his persona. That's the interesting part that I want to talk to you guys about. He could be facing his true self, facing his shadow, as evident in the golden eyes. But the fact of, the whole transformation, the blue flames engulfing him, is very, very interesting as well, because once the blue flames covers his eyes, the smile looks very shadow-like in the fact that it is very, very devious and very, very menacing. However, there was a theory that I had come across. This person I'm going to credit for this theory because it makes so much sense. A theory by PandoraGenies.tumblr.com. I'll put the link down in the description for my credits to you, because this person came up with this shadow possession theory, and it's amazing. And it is very interesting because she talks about them being shadows in the city, and how in the middle of the city, remember in the first trailer we see like flames bursting out and then this persona popping out of nowhere. So what if there are shadows running wild in the city? And and then we also have the incident within the trailer where the train is crashing, where the train crashes, but the driver has like no pupils, no iris, and it's just blank. He might be possessed by his own shadow, by his own persona. And that makes a lot of sense, because perhaps it is the shadows running rampant, possessing people. What if it is the shadows of people that possesses them and is making them wreak havoc across the world? Sounds very, very valid in my opinion, and it makes a lot of sense. And which would also explain the whole burning sequence in terms of the protagonist, is because his shadow sort of like takes over. Another interesting angle you could look at it is also the protagonist becoming his persona, if that makes sense. Like, he takes the physical form of his persona. I don't think that will happen. And the fact that the reason why I don't think that will happen is because of the all-out attack. Because in the all-out attack, we see the Pyrojack floating above and fighting the Sandman. And I don't think he becomes his persona personally, but I do think the shadow possession theory makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, and I think that makes so much sense. I sort of briefly mentioned this earlier, but I want to talk about the Battling Sandman in the all-out attack sequence in the trailer. I find that very, very interesting. The fact that it is Sandman that we are seeing, and this of course links up to the shadow possession theory. What if the personas themselves are going berserk? The whole point that I was saying, that he might have stolen something in order to cause chaos. What if he somehow messed around with how the world works? After all, personas are supposed to be the manifestations of your ego, and they're meant to protect. Why are they suddenly attacking you? Unless, of course, the Sandman graphics have been changed into the shadow graphics instead of being a persona. I don't know. I doubt that, but it might also still be the case. But the fact of the personas going berserk, roaming wild, and turning into their own shadows, that's very, very interesting. And it takes a whole new angle. The thing that you thought you trusted the most is now turning its back on you, and now you're gonna have to use personas to battle personas. And that leads on to possibly a very, very cool new game mechanic, which means the acquisition of new personas would be battling them. Like, you could use the Velvet Room. Obviously the Velvet Room is there, so I think fusion is still going to be around. But the fact that you're going to have to battle to acquire certain personas makes a lot of sense. And maybe, maybe this could link to the whole Velvet Room thing, and the fact that, that if you are indeed a prisoner in the Velvet Room, if you are, this is kind of a really wild idea, but if you are sort of like entrapped there and you have no access, let's say you have no access to fusing. I don't think this will happen. If you have no access to fusing personas, perhaps you would only have to battle to acquire them. I don't think this will happen because I think fusion is a very, very strong essence of what Persona is about. And I think it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and I think the fusion system is going to stay. They found a winning formula in Persona 4 Golden. It'd be stupid for them to not use it, and in this sequence, you know. But I do like the idea of having an extra feature in terms of like battling to acquire the personas, because it makes completing the compendium so much easier. Finally, we come to the gameplay. Honestly, if you guys have seen the trailer, you would know that the gameplay is absolutely revolutionary. I'm bold to say that word, but it really is revolutionary. We see the sequence in the train where the train is bumping around and the protagonist has to clutch onto the window. It is so detailed, vivid, gorgeous graphics going on here. And we see the protagonist walking around through the train station. It's so detailed. We see these people with so much detail walking by. It is gorgeous graphics. I don't think they're cutscenes. There are people who think they are cutscenes, but I do not think they're cutscenes. I think because it is in a city, it's going to have a wider scope and it's going to have many locations to travel, and more interaction with your environment, and it's gorgeous. Onwards to and next I will talk about the battle system in terms of the gameplay, because what's Persona without the battle system? Obviously, all-out attacks are still there, as we see through the sequence of Pyrojack beating up a bunch of Sandmen. And it seems that the protagonist has a weapon. His weapon choices are a gun and a knife. It's very, very interesting, which is kind of typical of thieves, if you think about it. They would probably only have a gun or a knife on them. They don't have time to carry out heavy-duty katanas with them, you know what I mean? So it makes sense in terms of practicality. We're not sure if like fusions can occur in terms of like your weapons and stuff. We've no idea whether that's gonna happen. Also, this just came to me, but the fact that it is a Pyrojack that appears in the all-out attack sequence makes me think that the protagonist is indeed a wild card. And the only way you can be a wild card is if you sort of are a resident of a Velvet Room and have signed the contract. Which means fusions are still gonna happen, baby! Yes. Which makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, and if he can summon Pyrojack, he's definitely a wild card. You know what I mean? So, yay! Yay for wild cards returning. But obviously we do not know if he is wild card and something else. He could be a wild card and a different arcana, just like Makoto is. And it makes a lot of sense, because the wild card is typically the full arcana, because of Zero having infinite potential. It's nothing but has infinite potential. You know, it makes a lot of sense. And if you think about it, for me, I think the Mad Hatter would definitely be a very, very interesting full arcana. I feel like he falls into that category. Do you or do you not agree? What do you guys think? Comment down below. Do you think Mad Hatter is totally in the full arcana category? Let me know what you guys think. I love hearing your theories. Next, I was talking about earlier about fighting the Sandmen in order to acquire them. Maybe that's a new battle system mechanic that they're handling here. Next, I would like to talk about the environment, especially the dungeon crawling. We see more interaction with your environment. After all, this guy is jumping from like those little ledges thing. You can jump in a dungeon crawler. This is gorgeous. This is Atlus putting in the work. This is Atlus trying to make things different. A new engine. You're interacting with your environment, and the whole sneaking around element, it kind of reminds me of like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, which I'm really, really happy about. And this could help in the element of surprise, or surprising shadows, or trying to avoid shadows in order to get something, which sort of adds on to the whole idea of this entire game being about a heist, or various heists, in order to steal something for someone, or to steal something back, or trying to, you know, it makes sense. You know, it does seem like a whole police and robber thing going on in here, and I'm very, very interested to see how this plays out. But I love the idea that you can sneak around and that you have more interaction with your environment. And then I start thinking, are we even having a dungeon? I mean, it does look like a dungeon crawler. It kind of looks like a castle with sort of like a castle with like shadows in knights of armor and stuff like that. But I start to think, wait, we see the masked protagonist in sort of like a reality where he's being chased down by people, unless of course that reality is actually within the shadow world or whatever realm this is, and it is not in reality but also just merely another dungeon. That could also be a point, that might be a thing, but it's very interesting, and obviously we're going to need more trailers before we can actually figure this out and pinpoint it. What do you guys think? Do you think this is going to be an actual dungeon, or do you think this is all happening in reality? Please comment down below and let me know. Also, with the gameplay, I have to say the menus look absolutely gorgeous. They're beautiful, so much of effort has gone into it, and I think they're beautiful. And obviously, based on the menus, a lot of people say that there is no social link that is going to be in the game. That makes... I'm not saying there's definitely a social link in there, but, you know, there could be a social link in there, and that Atlus is holding back some information, and is holding back some information to reveal to us later about the social links in a separate video or a separate trailer. That makes sense to me, because after all, we just had a couple of games where bonds are necessary and are the true power. You know, it makes no sense to suddenly go that route and then just change suddenly, all of a sudden. I personally don't mind if there's a social link or not, because I love Persona so much. But I think if you're trying to accomplish a goal of breaking free, of breaking humanity free from society's norms, you're gonna need a lot of power, and you're definitely going to need the social links to source that power. And the fact that we're still having fusions, we're still having Igor in the Velvet Room, obviously you need some sort of mechanic in order to help in terms of how you fuse your personas. So obviously you're going to need something for that. And the fact that there is no social link menu could be because in that part of the game that they're showing to us is still relatively early before you gain any social links. So maybe that's a thing, you know. And it looks super, super interesting, and the graphics are gorgeous. And you know, all the more, and to sort of like solidify that this might actually be a whole police and robber thing, we see within the gameplay this gorgeous new place. It's kind of like their own jeunesse kind of like meetup place, and it looks kind of like an old bar-ish little cafe where they have food obviously on the table, and it's very, very interesting. And obviously there's a map on the table which kind of looks like they're planning a heist, or maybe that's the layout of a dungeon that they're supposed to go through. That makes a lot of sense as well, but it does seem very undergroundish in my opinion. Seems very illegal. And to reinforce the idea of it being illegal, we also see the menus of where you get your weapons as well as your potions and medicines and stuff like that. So we see a doctor who's sort of helping you outside of work, and we also see a man who's selling you military grade weaponry. So everything seems very underground and very, very illegal, which sort of reinforces in my mind the idea that there is a whole cat and robber criminal thing that's going on in here, and that makes me super excited. After all, the first game that I've played was Persona 4. If you guys didn't know that, well, you guys get to know more about me in my video, which the link should be around here, Confessions of a Persona-holic. And in that video, I totally talk about the fact of that I played Persona 4 first, and the thing that attracted me to Persona 4 was the idea of this whole crime thing that was going on. If they're going to implement crime into this, I'm going to love it so, so much. And, I just love this new trailer. Okay guys, that is it for my analysis video of the new trailer of Persona 5. And obviously we still got more news coming up. And as soon as I hear anything interesting, obviously keep it locked to the Persona channel. And you can do that by subscribing. The button is down below. That red button that says subscribe. You can subscribe to my channel and get all the news about what I think. Especially, we're going to be doing a bunch of videos all about Persona. I do addressing the hate videos upon request. I do confessions of a Persona-holic. I do trailer analysis, reviews, anything. And the best part is I do a bunch of videos if you request it. If you want me to do a discussion video on a particular topic, just comment them down below and let me know what you want to see next on this Persona channel. To also follow more updates on what I think, and if I get the news on the go, please do follow my Twitter at vthereal. It is down there in the description, the link, and you can follow me on Twitter and let me know what you guys think. There's also the link to my Tumblr down below. That is where I started blogging a bunch of different theories and links and videos all about Persona and more if you want to get to know me and my fandoms. And that is all for today, folks. Please comment down below your thoughts on what you think about the new trailer video and your own theories, because this is amazing, guys. We got a new thing, and I would love to see various interpretations of the game. If you like this video and you love this trailer analysis, please like down below, because that helps a lot. I personally think this game is going to be revolutionary, bold, and radical, and I'm so happy, and I can't wait to when it comes out, and I can't wait for more news. Oh, I'm jumping on this hype train and I don't know where to stop. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Keep it locked to the Raven Azrael Persona channel for more Persona news and other Persona good stuff. Take care. Goodbye.